In this video, I want to talk about 5 plugins that every mixing engineer should own. So whether you're new to this, you want to start mixing your own or other people's music, and you're wondering what plugins you should invest in beyond just the stock DAW plugins, or maybe you're a more experienced engineer, maybe you've been mixing for years and you've just accumulated tons of plugins that's cluttering up space on your hard drive, and you just need to kind of focus and narrow it down. This video is going to help you out. And if you have been mixing a while, I would love to know what your 5 desert island plugins are. So let's jump in. Now, number 1, I'm going to go straight in for an EQ. And this needs to be a utility EQ that you can use on absolutely any source. So it needs to be versatile. And for me, that is an SSL 4K EQ. An SSL EQ is an absolute workhorse. It's a staple in any studio, in my opinion, whether it is part of the big SSL analog desks or whether it is one of the many plugins that exist. No matter what you need to equalize, this is going to do a great job. So maybe you've got an acoustic guitar or some backing vocals that are just too dark and they need brightening up. Put a high shelf at 12 to 15K and that thing will absolutely sparkle. It's also got some great mids, so if you need to add presence to a vocal or a piano or some guitars, the mid bands sound good, and you can even get super surgical with them as well with a really narrow cue. Where I especially love an SSL EQ is on drums, because particularly that mid-range has got a really great transient response. So you can EQ snares and kicks, hi-hats, tambourines, and you're not going to lose any of that transient impact from it. However, if you're not too fussed and you're not bothered about that kind of vintage, that analog kind of vibe, then a very close second for me would be FabFilter Pro Q3. You can literally do anything with this plugin. It is super clean, it can be super linear, and you can even get into some crazy mid-side stuff as well if that's what you need. Infinity EQ by Slate Digital is also a very, very good option here as well. Now on to plugin number 2, and we're going to talk about compressors. And this again needs to be a versatile utility compressor that you can use on absolutely anything that you need to tame the dynamics of. Now there's only one unit that springs to mind when we talk about versatile workhorse compressor, and that's a distressor. These units can literally do anything. They really are a modern classic, from gentle and transparent compression all the way through to really fast, really aggressive compression. This can do it all. Now, if we weren't trying to narrow it down to 5 plugins, I would have probably split this into an 1176 and an LA2A. For me, those are the 2 best compressors in the world, and you can probably do any compression that you will ever need to do with both of those units. The 1176 is really, really fast. You can get quite transparent, but it does the kind of fast, aggressive, super pumpy thing really, really well. The LA2A is like silk. It is as smooth as butter, and it just sounds amazing. It's got a really nice weight because of the low mid saturation. The distressor can emulate both of those units, so it is a really great option. So you can track vocals through it, whether that's hard rock vocals or soft ballad vocals. You can compress acoustic guitars. Again, you can be super gentle. You can even crush drum room mics through it. It will do absolutely everything. Again, there's a few plugin versions to choose from. UAD do an astonishingly good distressor plugin, and there's also a plugin by Slate Digital that's also very good, and I use both of those all the time in my mixes. Now, plugin number 3 is another compressor. However, this is going to be a slightly different one for a different job. This is going to be our bus compressor. This is what we're going to use on the mix bus, and it's also what we're going to use to kind of glue together instrument buses and groups as well. Now for me, on the entire mix, there is no better mix bus compressor than a Focusrite Red 3. I've been mixing through one of these on my mix bus for years, and I love the sound of this thing. It is a VCA style compressor, but it manages to compress without being too grabby, even when the attack is quite fast. So it means you can get a lot of glue to your mix without it pumping or without any noticeable compression. However, I probably wouldn't use the Focusrite Red 3 anywhere else. As good as it is, I think there are better options. So to narrow it down to one, it's got to be the SSL Mixbus compressor. On the Mixbus, this is nearly as good as the Focusrite. I find the SSL a little bit more grabby, so it means that you can't compress the mix as hard as you can with the Focusrite. But that's okay, it just means that you're going to have to make some other decisions in the mix. However, where the SSL really, really shines is on drums, and I would not want to be without an SSL style compressor on the drum bus. Putting this on the drum bus on a 4:1 ratio, medium attack, auto release, and slamming the hell out of it, getting -10, -12 dB of compression, and then just fading that in, just blending that in underneath the drums, adds something magical. In terms of plugins, there are loads to choose from. The best Focusrite Red 3 emulation, in my opinion, is the Slate Digital FG Red. Nothing else comes close to that. For SSL, Slate also do a very, very good SSL emulation, the FG Grey. SSL do their own, and there's various other manufacturers that emulate this as well. Plugin number 4 is another EQ. However, we're going to use it slightly differently. The SSL, the Fab Filter, those are our utility EQs that we're going to use to EQ everything, every single track in our mix. What I want in addition to that is an EQ that I can use to add broad strokes and subtly colour different parts of the mix. So that might be to use on the mix bus after the compressor. It might be to put on the drum bus or the guitar bus or the vocals. Now for me, whenever I'm thinking of these broad, colourful EQs, my mind instantly goes to Pultec EQP1A, and that would be my choice. I've mixed with a Pultec on my mix bus just after the Focusrite Red 3 compressor for years, and it sounds amazing. Just passing signal through a Pultec without any EQ engaged just does something. The tubes, the transformers in these units have a sound, and very often things can just sound better just from simply running through those Pultecs. However, on the mix bus, I like to boost a little bit of lows and a little bit of highs, and the Pultec does that in a really nice, pleasing way. You can also put this on your drum bus, get some brightness and some sizzle from the snare and the cymbals. It sounds great on vocals, you could put it on a vocal bus. It even sounds great on guitars, acoustic guitars, synths, strings, you name it. If the Pultec's not your thing, then Manly do a really great EQ in the Massive Passive. Kind of Pultec-ish, but that's definitely worth a look. And it's potentially a bit more tweakable than a Pultec is. In terms of plugins, UAD do a very good Pultec, as do Slate Digital. And I actually compared both of those on my channel, and they're really great plugins. If you wanted to opt for the Manly, then UAD again do a really great plugin of the Massive Passive. Pulsar Audio make a really good Massive Passive plugin as well. Now on to number 5, the 5th plugin in my Desert Island collection would have to be some sort of saturation. I use saturation all over the place, just to colour the mix. If you want to soften the highs, make things sound a little bit more analog, a little bit less harsh, saturation does a really good job of that. If you want to make things poke out of the mix more, you can add some saturation in the mids. If you want to thicken things up, saturation in the lows and the low mids can make something sound bigger, thicker. Now for me, when it comes to saturation, I'm instantly thinking tape. So my 5th plugin would be a tape emulation plugin. There are so many different options here, and they all have their own unique flavour. So it's really just kind of figuring out what it is that you want from a tape plugin. The one that I've used for probably 10 years or since whenever it came out is the VTM plugin by Slate. In this plugin, you get 2 different machines emulated. You get a 1/2" 2-track and a 2" 16-track machine, and you also get the option to choose from 2 different types of tape as well. The reason that I love tape so much, particularly the Slate VTM tape, is that it adds a really nice texture to the high frequencies. It adds a very subtle, gentle compression to the high frequencies, and it softens them. Anything that sounds harsh, you can run it through tape and instantly it just sounds better. A couple of other options if tape isn't your thing is the Fab Filter Saturn plugin. Super versatile, lots of different flavors of distortion and saturation. And also Decapitator by Soundtoys is an excellent saturation box. Now, if you're a songwriter or a producer or mixing engineer yourself, one thing that would likely make your life a hell of a lot easier is having a really good project planner. Something that you could use to map out all of the different projects that you're working on right now and what stage they're at, all within one simple app. You see, the problem with the Notes app or the Voice Notes app on your phone is every time you add something new, the older stuff just gets pushed further and further down, and then worst case scenario, you change your phone, you get something new, and everything's gone. You're starting from scratch. How frustrating is that when you had a load of good song ideas in that Voice Notes app, or you had tons of notes that planned out session after session? Well, I've got a solution to this problem, and it means that you can plan your projects seamlessly all in one app. This is great for songwriters that have got loads and loads of different songs and they want to keep track of where everything is. It's also great for producers and mix engineers who are working on multiple different projects at the same time. They need to know what stage everything's at so that they can keep track and meet deadlines. You can see instantly when opening the app where everything is, what stage it's at, and crucially, if you get a new phone or you lose your phone, then you just log straight back in and everything is exactly where you've left it. And the best part is it's completely free to use and it will work on any device, laptop, phone, tablet, you name it. The link's in the description below, go and check it out.